I think they don't really know what they want to say. And I think that they're lingering in this limbo where the president is inclined to lean toward declaring a national emergency, and others around him are telling him that this is a very bad idea, including Jared Kushner, who he had made a major point person who had steered him away from it, and who I think had been among the people saying to him, you got to get the government reopened again. This is not a win. This is very hard to spin, right? I mean, what is the victory here that you're pointing toward? And so I think that they are regrouping. I think that this is not a White House that does long-term planning. So I think that you are just seeing them kind of waiting and seeing what each day brings.
So the president, and we don't make it a business to read every one of his tweets out loud, but this gets to something that you have discussed before. Well, he's tweeting about the books. And you've been reporting he actually is moderately obsessed with the books written about him by Cliff Sims, at least. The president writes, so great to watch and listen to all these people who write books and talk about my presidential campaign and so many other things related to winning and how I should be doing it. As I take it all in, I then sit back, look around and say, gee, I'm in the White House and they're not. I actually think, and I'll let you answer this. He's not talking about Cliff Sims here.
He's talking about Chris Christie.
I think he's talking about Chris Christie.
I mean, that is the only one that I can think that is. I have heard that he's actually not upset with Chris Christie's book. And Chris Christie's book, in reality, actually, both books paint a pretty nuanced picture of the president. I mean, the Cliff Sims book got written up in some media accounts as, Fire and Fury, the sequel, and it really isn't. But the president is going to see some of these, even mild criticisms or anecdotes that he would rather not have out there as lines of attack. The Christie book is a book essentially describing lost opportunities, right? And it's lost opportunities from the transition that was thrown out, which Christie was in charge of. But yes, Cliff Sims did not run for president, so it's hard to look at that tweet as being about him.
This would be the first reference to the Christie book, too, because since there have been, several, which likely helped sales, but Chris Christie, not so much. I
actually think he's talking about Christie's interviews here.
I do too.
My Talmudic parsing of this.
He was on Cuomo last night. And I think that might.
It might be
I suspect that gets piped in
in Colbert, where Christie told Colbert that the president blew it on the shutdown.
Right. I mean, I think that there, and that speaks to the how I should have done it piece of that tweet. But it's interesting that he's not naming him.
All right. The President's Book Club this morning. Thank you very much, Maggie Haberman. Appreciate you being here. They're going to read The Help next week. The President's going to read The Help. All right. Millions of people across America are waking up to historic and brutally cold temperatures. Bridges over Madison County. I'm thinking of what other books you could read. The polar plunge has shattered record lows all over the map. There have been 10 weather-related deaths so far. Our Ryan Young is live in Chicago on Lake Michigan. You can see the steam, Ryan, rising off the water.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The water temperature is warmer than the air above, so it creates this effect. I'm sure we're going to have a beautiful sunrise today. Sometimes there's pain and beauty. I think this probably illustrates it just to a certain extent. But you look at the city, it just looks, all breathtaking. But at the same time, the wind chill here is just unbearable.
A brutal Arctic freeze sweeping over nearly a quarter of the country, bringing the coldest air in a generation to parts of the Midwest.
It's freezing cold. My face, my toes, everything.
With a low temperature of -23 and a wind chill of -52, the Windy City's temperatures lower than parts of Antarctica and Alaska, causing giant ice breaks to blanket the river and a wall of ice steam to form along Lake Michigan and across the skyline. The dangerously cold weather even showing its strength inside.
The steam froze around where the leaks are in my front door.
In Minnesota, a wind chill of 65 below zero. These ultra-marathoners crossing the finish line with their faces fully covered in ice. Police uniforms frozen completely upright to showcase the freezing cold. Residents in both Minnesota and Michigan asked to turn down their thermostats to conserve natural gas. Meanwhile, snow squalls ripping through the northeast, bringing near whiteout conditions and winds of up to 30 miles per hour in New York and Philadelphia. This time-lapse video showing the squall blowing through New York City, lake-effect snow creating blizzard-like conditions in upstate New York, dropping 2 to 3 inches of snow per hour in Buffalo, where temperatures dipped to -35 below zero. Near Rochester, a 21-vehicle wreck bringing this highway to a standstill. A snow squall also to blame for this 27-vehicle pileup near Reading, Pennsylvania.
We couldn't see anything because the snow was being driven perfectly horizontal.
First responders across the country forced to brave the treacherous conditions.
The temperature not only affects the manpower, but also the hose lines freeze up instantly.
Firefighters in Indiana covered in ice as they battled this house fire in negative 22-degree weather.
John and Erica, just think about this. The warming centers are still open. Schools are closed. I was actually reading in the paper just a few minutes ago that someone last night decided to pay for 70 hotel rooms for homeless in this area. So you think about someone doing that, a good Samaritan doing that. It's great to hear on the way home last night. I also saw people trying to feed some homeless and try to get them off the street. But not everybody's going inside, and that's one of the things you have to worry about. It is so cold here sometimes. You just imagine how long it would take for someone to just deal with the pain of this exposure, and even frostbite. It'd be interesting to see if the hospital deals with more people coming in over the next few days as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But good to hear those stories, as you pointed out, about the Good Samaritans, because, you know, when you couple that with what we hear about how little time it needs for that frostbite to set in. All right, go back inside, my friend. You and the team. Thank you. Will Democrats agree to any money for President Trump's proposed border wall? We're going to ask a Democrat who is in for the